Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Salty Vaper. I am Chris Jordan, broadcasting to you live from Richmond, Indiana, in the heart of these United States. And this is sort of a bonus review. I know, I told you I was going to review the Kennedy RDA clone next, but I decided to move this one up in the queue a bit. I was conflicted on whether to do a review on this one or not, but I think it's still relevant, and I think I'm still qualified to look at this product, and that is the Kayfun V4 Clone by Tobeco. Now, I should preface this video by saying I'm not really a tank guy anymore. I do still use them here and there. I used to use them extensively. Pretty much all I used were not the Aspire Nautilus, the Silo Tank by Beyond Vape, and the Kayfuns. So anyway, this is kind of a trip down memory lane for me. I pulled out some of my old tried and true tanks to compare airflow and vapor production and whatnot, and we'll do that in the video here. But yeah, the Kayfun V4 has been the one that I've been turning to when I need to use a tank in situations like when I want to stealth vape, in a movie theater, or I'm kind of having nicotine cravings and want a little bit higher nic. This has been the one I've been using. It is a logoed clone, and you'll see that better up close. And I would prefer that some companies, once again, stay away from logo clones, but this one did not do so. So we will deal with that and move on. Has the little stripy things on the mouthpiece like the original Kayfun. I'm currently vaping another trip down memory lane. Black licorice from, that's hard to see. Black licorice from Mount Baker Vapor. I used to vape this all the time, and it's still pretty good. Some of I got to be honest with you, I don't want to disparage companies, but some of Mount Baker's flavors aren't the best. But this black licorice is very good, as well as their guar line. The spew in their guar line is a good melon flavor. So, and there's probably hundreds of other. They've got right at 4.3 billion flavors. So there's probably a ton of good flavors in there. I've tried a handful and liked a few. So, but can't beat the price, and the customer service is awesome. But I got to be honest with you, as far as like my taste, which is very subjective, but my taste in juice hasn't necessarily been in line with Mount Baker Vapors. Black licorice, though, awesome, very good representation of the black licorice flavor. If you like that, very few people do. But that's what I have in this Kayfun V4 Clone by Tobeco. See, the vapor production is not too shabby. Airflow also not too shabby. And I pulled out some of my old tanks for comparison. I have the Silo Tank by Beyond Vape, which back in the day was sort of the pinnacle of airflow for a clear miser. So I wanted to compare the Kayfun V4 Clone to that. And also I have, for purposes of comparison, the Kayfun Light Plus. And this is also a clone by EH Pro. So I wanted to compare that in terms of draw, airflow, vapor production. So we'll start with a Kayfun 4 here, vapor production wise. Take a look. Feel very silly doing that, by the way, but I hope you get an idea of what's going on there. But next we'll do the Kayfun Light Plus. And that's this guy. Oh, I've got him on my Vapor Shark RDNA 30. You can see how worn out it is. That baby got some use. Again, back in the day, it's been kind of on the shelf for a little bit. I feel bad about that because it's a great mod. Other than the finish wearing there on the bottom, it's been an awesome tried and true mod for me. So here's the vapor production from this guy. I'm going to try to do this, a similar draw. Noticeably less airflow, noticeably less vapor production from the Kayfun Light Plus. Next, we'll take a look at the silo tank by Beyond. Oh, sorry about that. Little twisted dropping action there. And this is the silo tank by Beyond Vape. I don't want to give the impression that this is a comparison video in any way. I'm only going to talk about the Kayfun V4, but this just gives us an idea of where that Kayfun V4, with the airflow screw totally removed, by the way, where it falls in line with these various tanks. Like I said, the silo tank back in the day was the best in terms of airflow that I could find in terms of clearomizers. So here's the vapor production airflow from this one. Noticeably more airflow than the Kayfun V4. It's not night and day. It's not sub tank. It's not sub tank different, folks. We're still talking matters of degrees, but the silo tank does have better airflow than the Kayfun V4, but they're really in different categories. The Kayfun V4 is a rebuildable, and the silo tank is definitely a clearomizer with replaceable coils. But just wanted to, just for purpose of comparison of vapor production and draw, I wanted to take a look at those, and airflow. But I think at this point it would be appropriate to go down and dirty with Kayfun V4, take an up close look at the parts and pieces, and then we'll come back up top, look at some pros and some cons, give you my final recommendations, and go from there. So let's go down and dirty with the Kayfun V4 Clone by Tobeco. See you in a moment. Okay, we're back here, folks, with the Kayfun V4 Clone by Tobeco. You see this nice cardboard box that the Kayfun V4 came in. A little bit more impressive design than is normally the case. A little bit more professional presentation by Tobeco. Normally they come in the cheapest of cheap cardboard boxes, but this one's not bad at all. Has a nice illustration of the three configurations of the Kayfun. You have your configuration with the glass tank, your configuration with the polycarbonate tank, and your configuration with the metal tank. Now, this one holds more e-liquid. These two hold less e-liquid. However, I do like this version the best. Won't be affected by crack tanking liquids and such. And I just kind of like the aesthetic. So Some people don't like the aesthetics; they don't like that bulge. But in my mind, it's kind of the character of the Kayfun V4. So why not stick with that? So this one looks so much like the previous versions of the Kayfun with the polycarbonate or nano tank that this one's just a lot more distinctive, I think, to me. But inside, that's totally subjective. Inside, what we'll find is a conspicuously missing Kayfun V4. You'll see why in a second. You get your polycarbonate tank, and in this little bag here is an extra spring. There's actually some controversy about this spring with the authentic, and I'm assuming this will also affect the clone eventually. But what was happening is that the spring is losing its springiness, and it's causing jumps around in the ohm readings on your mods, and so the spring has to be replaced with a thicker gauge spring from Swomesto. Hasn't been said, but there's a good chance that down the line, you may find that the same thing happens. But you do have a backup spring at least. So if it loses its springiness, or more likely that spring, you take it apart and that spring goes flying into the next state, you do have an extra spring. So you also get your metal tank section. Kind of a nice look there. I've got it upside down, but it does say Swomesto on it. Again, I wish it didn't say anything, or it said Tobeco or something, but hey, it is what it is. And that's about all there is to see in this. Somewhere in there should be, oh, there it is. There's a little grub screw in there, and that's your airflow screw that I have totally removed on my version. And you'll see here why this is the Kayfun V4 Clone was missing from the box, is because of this. And this, folks, is a relatively modest breaking down of the parts and pieces of the Kayfun 4. It will break down into roughly 14,000 more parts, some of them no larger than a proton or a quark. But nevertheless, this is kind of the most basic breakdown I could bring you for the Kayfun V4. This is, of course, the build deck, which I just knocked over. I have a coil on her. Kayfun's are super easy to build on. This one is no different. We'll get an up close look at the build deck there, and you can take a look at how this baby glows like a champion. Let me get it. Let me focus here a bit, folks. That's the kind of professional operation I like to run here on the Salty Vaper. So that's your build deck. Different from the previous versions of the Kayfun, you do have 4 screws, but you do build it much the same way, kind of diagonally from screw to screw there. If you're very inventive, you can probably get a dual coil in there, but hey, what's the point of that? It's a Kayfun. But that's what I have as far as action in the build deck. That's my coil just glowing like a champion. I am going to re-wick it for you, but I have a little piece of pre-made wick here Just going to thread it through this coil, pull it on through. It's about the right size already. Oh, my focus is, wow. My focus is totally out of control, but we'll get back here. There is that. So that's that wick. You missed me pulling the wick through, but not much else. You did see the build deck in all of its glory, but this is the wick. Good on that side. Probably still a bit long on this side. Just gonna trim it up just a bit, give it a little haircut. You want it long enough to get down to those juice holes. That's where your juice is going to come down from and soak into the coils. So just enough to kind of touch those juice holes, absorb the liquid. Now we can put, and this is a familiar action if you've worked with Kayfuns before, but put your chimney on, your chimney. Let's call it a build deck band. Everybody's been calling it chimneys. I'm going to call it a build deck band. Kind of bands in your build deck there, seals it off from the larger part of the chimney. So once you have that on, always a good idea while you've got her in this state to juice her up a bit. I just started calling things her for some reason, even though it's not a ship, but I will, or a car, not a ship or a car, but this Kayfun V4 Clone is a her. So just like that, get her nice and juiced up. Is she producing vapor? Yeah, she's producing vapor. Quite nicely also, I might add. What I put in there was, this is one I don't hear much about, but it's very delicious. It's the Clouds of Icarus. Cinema has a kettle corn kind of flavor. Next up on the reassembly here, we'll replace the chimney section, which does include some Savo Mesto branding there. Just screw that down ever so snugly. And what I'm doing there, you see me spinning that, is I'm closing off the juice flow. I'm getting the juice flow closed off and ready for what comes next. But this piece is your bottom tank ring, your tank holding ring. So you get that screwed on. See the O-ring there? Your tank just sits in there nicely, and then this piece with another O-ring and holes for filling your juice goes right like that. Then there's this little nut with knurling on it, which you will put on there and tighten down until she's nice and tight enough to hold that tank against the O-ring and prevent any leakage or airflow escape. The Kayfun depends on a closed kind of airflow system of a vacuum and pressure system, if you will. So you want to have her nice and tight. Can tighten it most of the way, just without knurling on that nut, but you can also sort of twist this part and help tighten it. The next part that goes on is, oh, I almost forgot. Well, we've got it in this state. Might as well go ahead and fill the juice flow, the juice well up. I know y'all have seen juice filled up before, but this is the way you would go about that. With that juice flow closed off, and the way that you close that off is you turn it all the way counterclockwise. So you turn the whole unit, you grasp the bottom here, and you turn the whole unit counterclockwise, and that turns off your juice flow. For a more in-depth discussion on that, you can always check out Phil Basardo's epic video, that really very, very detailed and excellent rundown of the Kayfun V4. But we'll continue to fill our juice here. Sorry to waste your time, but this is a necessary step. I could probably edit some of this out, but what would be the fun in that? Next thing, put this little guy on here. We'll call this the top cap. It screws right on. Threading's not bad on this. We'll talk about this in the pros and cons, but threading not bad at all. Then this piece goes on your, we'll call this the top piece, or your drip tip holder. So that screws on. Your nice clean drip tip goes on. Maybe it goes on. Boy, it fit tightly after that cycle in the jewelry cleaner. What you'll see here, and I want to show you this while I'm thinking about it. Drop that baby like it was nothing. So when your juice flow is closed, when it's all the way counterclockwise, that is, it will just wobble. It just wobbles. It's just not tight. There is a fix on the internet for this, but I'm the kind of guy that I just like to I like for things like to function the way that they come. And to be honest, this isn't the end of the world to me, but it does wobble. And that's only when you have the juice flow closed off, which for me is not very often. And then you will open your juice flow by turning it all the way clockwise. You will take a vape off of it, see if it's gurgly. A little gurgly, but I think we can vape through it. And there you have it. The Kayfun V4 put back together, filled with juice. I think at this point it would behoove us to go back up top, talk about it a little bit, vape on it a little bit, and go from there. Welcome back up top, folks. We are here again with the Kayfun V4. I feel like I gave this whole and I know this is a very basic video, and I'll reiterate, if you want something very in-depth, check out Phil Basardo's video on the authentic Kayfun V4. Check out Grim Green's video on the authentic Kayfun V4. Both are relatively in-depth. Of course, Phil's far more in depth and much longer. Rightly so. This is a complicated device, but I just wanted to show you the basics, the functionality of it, the usability of it, talk a little bit about the user experience, and call it a review. Because one, I was hesitant to do a review of this product because it feels a little bit dated to me, even though I just got this probably a month ago. I don't know. It just, from my vaping perspective, it feels kind of like a last generation device, which is why I was hesitant to do a review on it. I wasn't sure how relevant it would be to all of you, and then I started thinking, for beginners, for for people just getting into RBAs, RTAs, people who like a tight draw, this could be the perfect device for those folks. So I think it's still relevant. Hope so anyway. But I feel like I gave kind of short shrift to the juice flow control and its purpose and its operations. So I wanna reiterate a couple of things. The juice flow control, the way it operates, when you turn the device counterclockwise and you hold the very bottom of the base, not this little ring, not this little knurled ring, but the bottom of the base, and turn it all the way counterclockwise, that shuts off the juice control and of course makes the device wobbly. But there aren't that many times when you're going to need to turn off the juice flow control. So the wobbliness, not a huge deal, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But you would turn off the juice flow control when you're filling it, but of course then it would be off the device and the wobbliness would not be nearly as apparent. You would turn it off when you are traveling in an airplane and the pressure would otherwise force juice into your chamber and flood your chamber. And three, probably I would also turn it off if you're going to be going from like a huge temperature change, like if you're going from freezing cold outside into a nice warm house. That has a tendency to cause some leaking. I'd probably shut the juice flow down and prevent some of that leaking. But and then to open it back up, of course, there's the wobbliness again, just so you can see I'm not making this up. There's a fix for that on the internet if you are so inclined. Doesn't bother me that much. I usually have it open. So this is it closed all the way clockwise or counterclockwise. Sorry. To open her back up, you turn it all the way clockwise. That lowers that deck and consequently opens up the juice flow, allows the juice to come in. You'll see some bubbles start to form there in your juice, and it's ready to vape. Really good flavor. So I think at this point it would be a good time to talk about pros and cons. Pros, I just mentioned it, good flavor. The Kayfuns always have good flavor, and this is no exception. The airflow, the vapor production, is good for what it is. And again, this is where we get into this is it a last generation device, because now we have things like this that do this. And the vapor production is just so much better. The draw is so much looser. The airflow is so much more open on this new generation of sub-ohm tanks, that comparing it to the Kayfun V4 isn't fair. You know, it's for two different audiences. And here at the Salty Vaper, we try to appeal to all audiences and all spectrums of the vaping world, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced vapor. I want to provide information that'll be useful for you. So I think the Kayfun V4 Clone by Tobeco is something that definitely fills a niche in there, an important niche, maybe possibly even like the silent majority, because folks coming off of cigarettes are going to want a tighter draw. They'll appreciate the flavor and so on. But with that, let's talk about some more pros and cons. What about the build quality? I can normally count on the build quality being on these clones being in the con camp. On this one, not so. The build quality, other than that wobbling, is quite good. Everything seems machined well. The threading is just surprisingly smooth. No barbs, like things turn the way they're supposed to. Nothing really catches. I guess one complaint, and I will save it for the cons, but the machining, good. The flavor, just to reiterate, flavor, good. Airflow, 4 on RTA is decent. Not as much as the billow, not as much as the silo tank, more than the Kayfun Light Plus. Let's have a vape. Again, that Clouds of Icarus Cinema, very good. Been a while since I had it. 12 milligrams, tearing my throat up a bit. Cons. You know, we talked about the wobbliness. Not a big deal for me. If you can handle a little wobbliness when you do have the juice flow shut off, that's, is what it is. The only other con that I can think of, this glass tank, it just feels like the kind of glass that if you look at it wrong, it's going to break. It feels kind of snaggly on the edges. It's very thin. It's just the kind of glass tank that doesn't give you much confidence. So, and it only comes with one. So I'm assuming the authentic glass tanks, the replacement tanks are compatible, but I can't say for sure. Finally, my final recommendations. I think it's probably pretty obvious at this point. I am going to recommend this device to anyone who, again, likes a relatively tight draw. Maybe other people who have used other tanks, currently use other tanks, last generation tanks with a tighter draw, be it the Kayfun 3.1, the Kayfun Light, the Kayfun Light Plus, the Typhoon, any of those, like they all have a tighter draw, but very good flavor, very easy to build on, just kind of tried and true, no muss, no fuss, rebuildable. So if you like those, I think you'll love this guy. I've kind of used it in every tank application that I use these days, which aren't many. My day in, day out stuff, I use the sub tank, the Atlantis, and the Arctic tank when I'm out and about. I have a whole, and I use all of them because I've got different flavors of e-juice, and I like to switch out different flavors of e-juice throughout the day. And then when I get home, I use a dripping atomizer. But when I need a tank atomizer, a tank RBA RTA, I find myself more and more often turning to this Tobeco Kayfun V4 Clone, because it's just kind of a pleasure to use. It just feels good. The flavor is good. It feels solid. For a tank, the airflow is kind of pleasant. It's kind of refreshing after using all these open draws to like I said, go back down memory road and experience kind of the pleasantries of that tight draw. Just damn good flavor. It's a little bit, and this could be another con, compared to some other tanks. It's a little bit fiddly with your your juice flow control. Another thing, and because I took that airflow control completely out, I totally forgot to mention tank's intact, folks. That was a drop from about 3 stories and it didn't break, so maybe I judged that tank too quickly. But the way that you adjust your airflow is, and if you watched any of the authentic Kayfun V4 videos, you already know this, but the way you adjust your airflow is you take out that bottom 510 center pin. You just screw that all the way out. Underneath that, there is a little grub screw that you turn counterclockwise to open up your airflow, turn it clockwise to tighten your airflow. I took it all the way out because I wanted the most open airflow I could get. In fact, they make sub-ohm kits for the Kayfun V4 that widen the airflow even more, give you more of a loose draw. But that's not necessarily its purpose. But I did want the most open draw I could get, the most open airflow I could get, and that sort of taking that little grub screw out kind of fills the bill for me. But what a wonky way to adjust airflow. Usually Svomesto is just spot on with all their stuff. I'm not sure. I think that was just a Hail Mary. They couldn't think of another way to get that airflow on there and maintain their innovative juice flow design. So the air holes around the side, but the actual adjustment of that is that internal grub screw beneath the 510 center pin. What else can I say about it? It's just a solid device, for roughly, between $30 and $40. The original cost upwards of $180. It's machined well. It functions perfectly. Great flavor, good airflow for an RTA. Nice drip tip. Good O-rings. Choices for your tank. What's really to debate? It's just a great deal. It's a quality little piece of kit, as Todd would say. So I can't recommend it more highly. Do I wish the wobble wasn't there? Sure, but it's something that I don't close the juice flow off that often, so I'm not going to sweat it. I'm guessing you'll have a similar experience, and if it does bother you, there's always that fix out there that you can look into. Haven't had a lot of problem with it leaking, gurgling, and so on, unless it's been something stupid I've done, like left the juice flow open when I'm filling it, or putting caps back on and things where there's air pressure that's gonna force juice into your chamber. That's what that juice flow control, or juice on and off more accurately, because you really don't. There really isn't a way to speed up or slow down the juice. It's just on for vaping, off for filling and travel. But it's a nice device. I really, especially for a clone, especially for the price point. And I hear reviewers, and I always crack up, saying, "Oh, price shouldn't be a factor." I'm reviewing the device itself, not the price. Price is always a factor, because it plays into a little thing called value that's important to folks in the real world. If you're paying for your devices, value is always going to be a factor. That's why I'm never going to look down on clones. I'm never going to look down on people who use clones, and I'm always going to provide you the most complete information I can. I'm not going to do reviews for all clones. I'm going to do some authentics. I've got an Aeolus authentic RDA on the way. I've done several authentic reviews already. My main staple is a Hexome, which is quite authentic. So nothing against authentics, nothing against clones. Just want to provide the best breadth of information for the most people that I can. I'm not sure why I decided to go into a defense of clones at this moment in time, but what the heck? It's in here. I might do it again sometime when it's more appropriate. But I do wish they would leave those logos off, because in my opinion, those logos ought to be trademarked. They should not be on clone devices. It should be clone manufacturers should be acting proactively and taking them all off. Logos do not affect the functionality, and that's what people are looking for. If you're looking for to try and fool other people into thinking you have an authentic, honestly, the vaping community doesn't have time for you, and certainly the manufacturing community doesn't have time for you. So if vendors and manufacturers are playing to this whole people wanting to be posers and act like they've got an authentic when they don't, who cares? What's more important is that we're not putting out logoed clones that can then be passed off as authentic by shady vendors. What's more important is that the authentic creators' trademarks are respected. Act proactively. It's coming. Take the logos off. No one's going to care. The people who are going to care are still going to buy it because it's a good value. So there's that word again. Value. Price is important. So with that, got a little rambly there at the end. Tried to keep this as short as possible. Given that it's a Kayfun V4, I think I did pretty well. I think most of the videos were coming in at 45 minutes plus. I think Phil's came in at around 4.5 hours, but again included, that's an exaggeration, but it was very long. But included lots of good information. If you're super interested, especially if you're going to buy an authentic, I would definitely watch Mr. Phil Basardo's video. I don't think he likes being called Mr., but Phil Basardo's video on the Kayfun V4 Authentic before you make such a large purchase. If you're thinking about buying the clone, might not be also a bad idea to check out Phil and Grimm's videos on the Authentic. Check out what you can, do all the research you can do. This is just one piece that I hope is handy for you to look at in deciding if this is the right fit for you. With that, we will call it a review. Next up, I promise, is the Kennedy RDA clone by question mark. Still don't know what shadowy company. Love that glare. Still don't know what company makes this atomizer, and I do at this point kind of marginally like it. So I would like to know. I would like to know who makes it, but no indication on the packaging. I will be able to tell you where to buy it. Join me for that review. But for now, this is the Salty Vaper. Thanks for joining us. I am signing off. See you next time.